I know you were in both locker rooms today, so what stood out to you from the most disappointing loss of the year?
Yeah, this definitely was disappointing. Let's start with the Bears locker room first. Right as we were entering, Jalen Johnson was leaving the locker room. Did not have a chance to talk to him. He was out of the locker room before, even all the media got in there. But it really was a pretty empty locker room. Outside of maybe Larry Borum sticking around for the offensive line, those guys really weren't there. Jake Curran, your guy, Carm, he was there. I don't think I didn't have a chance to talk to him, but there weren't a lot of guys on the offensive line. Even wide receiver wise, Roma Dunze left pretty early too. Didn't see Keenan at all as we were in there. So pretty quiet, empty locker room from the Bears' perspective. And after getting just a couple of sound bites from the players that did remain in there, I decided to go over to the Patriots locker room just to kind of get some ideas of what these Patriots defenders were thinking as they, one, prepared for this Bears offense and obviously executed to the best of their ability, holding the Bears to 3 points. I got a chance to hear from Jalen Hawkins, the Patriots safety, and just ask him straight up, like, what was it like going against this offense? So he starts off by praising the Bears for having a lot of weapons, highlighting certain players like DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, have a high-powered offense. Maybe a little tongue-in-cheek there. But then I also asked him, what were there any tendencies that you picked up throughout the week? So I did put the word tendencies in my question that you picked up on. And he said there were a couple of tendencies. And the Bears finished 1 of 14 on third down today. He said in his answer there were some third down nuggets and stuff like that that they picked up throughout the week as they're preparing for Shade Waldron's offense. So when you see guys that are, he said there are certain players in certain positions, those are things that they picked up from their coaches that they watched on film, that when you see the Patriots out there who don't have too many star-studded playmakers on defense go out there and perform the way they did, maybe that's, a reason for, the way that they played today. I also got a chance to hear from one of the cornerbacks, Isaiah Bolden, and, in his answer that I asked him a question, what was the prep like throughout the week? And in his answer, he brought up that there were tendencies on film, very similar to the first player. And then he said that the coaches did a really good job of just presenting those tendencies that they picked up on and just bring it to the players' attention. That allows them to play fast. And just that information is obviously what allowed them to do what they did on defense. So when you hear things like that, they're figuring out this Bears offense because they have all these playmakers, yet, like I said, this Patriots defense that doesn't have a lot of playmakers is able to hold them to just 3 points.
Nick, being in the locker room after this game, do you think that Eberflus and company have lost the locker room, in your opinion?
Man, it's a tough one, Whoop. I mean, like, today, it felt like the most empty. And look, there's been some bad losses in the last 3 weeks now. But today just felt as empty and as quiet as it has ever been for this Bears team in this season. So to answer your question, have they lost it? I think they're definitely questioning things that are going on, like you guys are just talking about, with how Eberflus doesn't really have this answer about what he could do better. I think as players, you want to see him answer that question how Caleb did. But I think there are definitely questions now at this point because there was no reason for them to lose this game to the New England Patriots, who had won 2 games all season, couldn't get to the quarterback, but somehow sacked Caleb Williams 9 times. So I think there's definitely questions going on about what the future of this team is even going to look like.
Do you ever remember Jalen Johnson leaving the locker room early? Because that is a stand-up dude who will answer questions like literally any day of the week.
Honestly, Mark, I don't. So that's why it was really surprising to see him go. And I think you were there with me earlier this week when he spoke, and it's like you could do all these things throughout the week, but it's like what you do on Sunday. Watching Jalen Johnson, he's not getting targeted. He's still playing the game. He's still playing the run, doing things like that. But I don't remember, since I've been in the locker room covering this team, a time where Jalen hasn't been there to, answer questions. He'll answer questions when this team loses. He has no problem doing that, or even throughout the week at Hallis Hall. So seeing him leave early, that was definitely eye-opening and something that you have to take note of.
It just feels like he didn't want to be put in a position where he had to hold his tongue.
Nick, we didn't have a chance to play Cole yet. I know you talked to Cole Kmet. What was his message as one of the team captains?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it for Cole, like he was asked like about the offense and again, just what do you have to do? You have to change things, fix things. I didn't hear the exact question that was asked, but he said he couldn't speak on anything specifically, but everyone just needs to do their job, master the game plan, and being on their game really. And just they have not been close to perfect at doing any of that as of recently. But the big thing that he said too is that they have to come together and stay together in the locker room. And obviously Cole Kmet's been a part of some losing teams here since he's been drafted by the Bears. So the big thing, the message that I guess he had was like, you just got to stick together. All they have is each other in this locker room. Put your heads together and find a way to get through this. And he was also asked like, is this stunning? Meaning how the game played out. And he wouldn't use that exact wording, but they just can't get out of this funk. And he said they really can't get out of this funk this last 3 weeks offensively. But it seems like to me, Adam, it's like a team that's, again, they need to find a way to stay together. But when you don't see the results on the football field, I can imagine that being really tough for an offense that just has not had success offensively.
Well, Nick, I mean, and we appreciate all your reporting you're doing from Soldier Field here today. But I mean, what do you, from your opinion, what do you think they should do? What would you do?
I just don't know how after this game, the way the offense looked, and I get it, you're down a bunch of offensive linemen. You had one of the original 5 stars in the game, but when you're making these rollouts to the short side of the field and there's nobody open, like it just seems like play concept wise, just not makes. I just don't see how you can stick with Waldron going forward. And I don't know what the answer. If you can Waldron, fire him. I don't know if the answer to that is any better, but it's not working right now. When I was watching, so usually Caleb Williams, when after a series, and most of them been punts from the Bears, he will go and sit with, it will be Shane, it will be Kerry Joseph on the bench. I had never, there was only a couple of times throughout this game where Caleb actually went to that section of the bench and actually was like breaking down with them. For the most part, he had his tablet, was kind of going through it himself, and then eventually went over to the bench. So it feels like ever since, I think it was the Houston game where I started noticing that, where he would just take it upon himself to go, walking up down the sideline, maybe even talk to his offensive line, his wide receivers. But now I feel like he's more so distancing himself from Waldron and then eventually going back there and breaking things down. So it just seems like there's a lot of dysfunction. We're seeing that in the football field, but the little things that I'm seeing on the sideline where players are not even, or where he's not even over there, like that, you also have to take note of that.
Nick, do you have a count off the top of your head? It doesn't matter. Can you remember a Bears team this sloppy? How many false starts were there today? We haven't even touched on that.
Yes, I can remember plenty of
2 times they had to call timeout because they were about to get a delayed game. And then Montez Sweat, obviously I know he's hurt, but wasn't able to get back to the line of scrimmage
just go out of bounds.
On the field goal or go out of bounds.
I mean, that level of attention to detail, I mean, we're talking football 101 here, team. I mean, that
and guys, too, real quick, like even at Soldier Field, like this stadium was checked out of halftime. Coming into the third quarter, there was a third down on defense where collectively, you'll hear the crowd cheering for this team. Nothing. When the Bears punted for the eighth time in this game, it was also the 20th drive that the offense ended without a touchdown. Nobody cared. Like Torrey Taylor was going out there to punt, and it didn't seem like anybody really cared at this point. You're hearing that from the fans here at Soldier Field, where the Bears have actually been good, but this game, I just feel like it honestly broke the people, the few people that were still holding on to hope, but just hearing nobody cheer on third down for the Bears defense, or very small amount of people, when I think the game's not out of reach by any means. It's not like the Patriots put up a bunch of points in this one, but it was just fascinating. I remember asking Herb Howard, I don't remember it being like this, where even on third downs, you're not cheering. And then after a punt on offense, another 3 and out, they didn't even care enough to boo. It eventually came out later where Fire Flus chants were happening throughout the stadium, but I was just like, damn, this team broke Bears fans. And it's crazy to see that at this point in the season.
We all silly like the mayor.